My name's Christopher Daniel. I'm a film production student in my final year to get my degree, taking the role of director. Now I've had my fair share of complications when it comes to the filmmaking process, and this has led me to ask a question. What about other students? Do they encounter the same difficulties? We asked film production students across all stages of their degree, have you encountered any issues that have led you to have to change or alter your productions in any way? Surprisingly, 100% of students asked said that they had encountered technical issues, although they were able to resolve them themselves. However, when asked if the university had given assistance in any way, 70% of students said yes, while 30% said no. However, it's worth noting that of that 30%, a couple didn't even approach the university for help. We asked the students, do you feel supported by the university? An incredible 90% of students said that they did. This all sounds very positive, however 65% of students said that they felt the university could do more to assist them. The purpose of this documentary is to go further with this study, to understand the functionality of students and how they manage to continue with the creative process, the ability to keep going when entire projects begin to fall apart. Students are able to pull together and create material, in most cases. As you can see, we've been forced to change location. I think this just reiterates what this documentary is about. In fact, we'll be talking to a previous student turned lecturer about what protocols are in place when something like this happens during a production. We'll also be talking to other students across the production course to tell us about their experiences. So, thank you for joining us today, Rob. First of all, we'll start with the fact that you were a student here back in 2008.
Yep.
You graduated with a 2-1, and after university you went straight into work.
Yeah, I ended up primarily doing freelance work once I left university. Went out, bought my own kit, and ended up making quite a few promotional videos for politicians.
So as film production students, obviously we're very creative minded. Have you got any projects that come to mind that have taken your creativity to a level that you not really originally expected to reach?
Well, for instance, with my FYP that we're doing now, a lot of the subtextual side of it is determined through the cinematography. Because we're shooting it at my old house where I grew up in the countryside, I knew the location very well. So in terms of cinematography, I knew I was able to determine exactly what I wanted before I wanted it, and I could put the actors into different situations that could tell a story aside from the literal dialogue that was being expressed.
When it comes to knowing about different projects and things that can go wrong, I think we've had our fair share.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
So the message we're trying to get across with this documentary is about things that go wrong. I'm pretty sure you could have a few stories to tell about when things haven't gone to plan.
Oh yeah, I've got plenty. The first one happened during my second year of university, and the course I was doing, each year they hold a film festival, and we were headlining this film festival. And when it came to actually burning the film onto a DVD so it could be ready to be played as part of this film festival, we were still editing as the film festival had already begun, so we were really behind. And we were there ready to headline, and we pressed play on the DVD, and the DVD didn't work. All we were getting was sound. When you're stood at the back of an auditorium and your audience is expecting to see a film playing and all they're getting is some sound, you get that heat that runs through you. But you've just got to think on your feet, really.
The film that we had tried to make, Coffee, Chris had written the script, and we'd all very much liked it. Myself, Chris, and Ernest, the third member of our group. And in terms of getting actors, it was recommended by our lecturer that we use each other in the class because we won't have time to hire professional actors. So we ended up using them. I started in theirs. But when it came to them acting in ours, they seemed a little more rigid. They weren't very happy to be there. They were very unhelpful in terms of sorting out their own time.
Have you ever used student actors?
Yeah, I mean, you have to at the start to an extent, just because you're still learning the equipment, learning the craft, which we very much still are. But obviously, it just depends on the script, really, is what I'd say.
The thing that was letting us down every time was just the communication with the actors. After Ben had put the work in to do theirs, when it come to doing ours,
They showed very little enthusiasm about it.
it was like, oh yeah, I'm free tomorrow all day.
We had booked the temporary office to use. We got there at 9:30, brought them with us, and then they informed us after we'd been there for an hour that they needed to go back soon because they had a lecture at 11 that they had to go to, even though we'd asked them to clear their schedules for the day. So we ended up having to drive them home.
Tell me a bit more about other projects and locations. Has it all been smooth sailing?
No, like even recently, we had to change an idea for a production project. Originally, it was going to be an idea about like two twins and their relationship with their father, but then the twins bailed out, and I thought of an idea that I'd come up with like a couple of months ago about an old couple who are quite cold towards one another, and they sit down and across the course of a meal a jazz song plays that reminds them of their youth, and I was thinking, like, we were trying to think of where we can find a bar. Then I remembered my mum knows the owner of a jazz club. The actors, I have two actors who were my neighbours at my home, and like everything was sorted out, but like a week before we were meant to be going shooting, they emailed me saying like, oh no, we there's been a production wants to pay to do this here, and we won't be able to inform you for 3 days whether or not they confirm. And like by that time we just had to scrap the whole idea, and we came up with this new idea that we're doing for Bristol. So we've gone through 3 ideas just because of like location issues.
We abandoned that location, which we were very frustrated by. So what ended up happening was we found a new place inside the university, a small meeting room, which had a similar look, and we did it up ourselves and made it look even more like what the previous area looked like. And we were happy with it, and we did a few shots, and we loved them a lot.
It was unrecognisable. I mean, if we just play the clip now, I mean, so what you can see there is as they come through the door, we've got the tracking shot running through the room, and he goes up into the kitchen, which is basically just a table in front of a window with a blind built into it. Yeah. And yet we've managed to, just by placing some bits on the wall, create an office space in a teaching room, in a meeting room basically, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I liked the back and forth of the look of Steve the actor. He's looking at the picture frame and it's going back to him, and it's a nice close up, and you get a sense of like the connection of the, and that was one of the more annoying things, was the fact that we thought the two actors had good chemistry together.
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, even as it moves forward, and you can see as Charlie is the skinnier, the less bushier one, he puts the computer down, throws the glare that he gives him there. I just think that's, you know, I mean, Steve stared, the pair of them, that was fantastic. It was just their commitment to the project just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it was just something that was stressful.
The second big issue I had, the biggest problem that ever comes to mind, was during my dissertation filming. And I was shooting on a camera that takes DV tape. And I was in the process of doing my first big backup. I never really used to back up so much, and I decided that this was the time I would do it. And it was halfway through the backup procedure that the hard drive I was working on, that had all of my footage, it had probably a film that was about 80% completed on it, it crashed. And it never regained consciousness. And this all happened 2 weeks before the deadline.
Gosh.
And it got to a point where I had to start my entire editing process from scratch.
We had to use me in second year because...
I saw it was great.
Thank you. Well, yeah, the story behind that, it's, we, in second year, we had to do a drama, and we wrote a script, and it was just a character piece based around this one guy. And it was about this guy who lived in a caravan, and he goes out fishing every day, but you realise that he always, whenever he goes out, he sets up 2 fishing rods, and there seems to be like an empty space in his life, and you figure out that his son died.
So this was like a rough edit we did just to show when we got back. So
yeah, this is he's just come. He's been at the beach fishing, and his son's rod had split in half, and that's what shocks him out of it. So he comes running back in. He tries to realizes he can't fix it, so he goes into his bedroom to try and find something to fix it. And while he's looking around for it, he finds an old picture from his son of him and his son on a boat, and eventually this is what prompted him to kind of move on. He goes out and he reveals that there's like this unfinished boat, and he finishes off building it and pushes himself out to the ocean with it, and that was the end of the short film. But yeah, but we were all pleased with these shots. Like this shot that's coming up, we're all using in our show reels. Like it got during the audition, me and him having a correspondence, we were able to get him to this point really nicely. Like me and him had a really good rapport.
I have to say, it's an amazing performance that he's putting on there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's generally the only thing missing is tears. So did you take any of these issues to your tutors?
I seem to remember I did at the time. I informed them of what was going on in the situation. But the simple fact is I shouldn't have been in that situation anyway. I should have backed up my content. I always say to people that whatever the situation is, it might be that you've broken up with your partner, it might be that you've lost your job, it might be that your hard drive has crashed and all of your work has been lost and you need to re-edit. You're allowed to be annoyed and pissed off. And I usually say you're allowed to be annoyed and pissed off for about 24 hours. But the next day you have to get on with it, because otherwise it won't get done.
How have you found it working collaboratively?
I have been working with people who already had a lot of experience, so I felt like I was left behind a little bit. I felt like I was learning from them more than helping them. So I thought that was not a good thing to do. They're not my teachers, so...
So what did the, with the teachers, you say that you felt like you were learning from the other students rather than your teacher. Did the lecturers not give you any assistance with bringing you up to par?
That's one of the issues I was thinking about when I said there have been a couple of issues. When I first came to this university, my experience was very basic, and when I first arrived I felt like everyone else has already had a little bit of experience, like they have been studying media at high school. So I hoped we would have been a lot more followed by our teachers, like they would have helped us a lot more than they actually did, because I realized at the end it was just about, their role was just giving us marks and telling us, go and shoot. You can book the kit out from the loan counter, grab it and go and film, and we'll mark it.
Do you have a particular example that you're willing to share with us?
That's basically what happened with every project we did. Like, I was hoping to get a lot more training on equipment. Like in first year we had the module called camera, lighting and sound, but we had just one lecture on each one of these things, like one lecture on cameras, one lecture on microphones, and one lecture on lightings, and that was it. And that of course didn't help at all, because like, there is so much you can say about even cameras, and there are so many different types of cameras you can use, and they just taught us how to use one that uses tape, so it's even a very old-fashioned one.
Yeah.
We never used that again after the first project we did. Like for example, since the second semester of first year, we always filmed everything on DSLRs. And I feel like they are still at a student level. They are probably not what they use in the industry.
How do you feel that the universities kind of helped you in the way of providing equipment and stuff?
I think overall, to be honest, they've done quite well more recently. And but with recently getting enough 5Ds in, I think it's done them well. But it's more, the university, like anyone who controls a budget, needs to be pushed and needs to be shown what they need to an extent. So I think they've done well, but of late it's only really been because of student feedback, which is something they're actually quite good at if you look at it overall.
Since we've moved from last year to this year, well, I think we're starting to see where our money's gone. When they were paying the wonderful amount of £3,500 for an education, whereas now we pay a lot more. 8,500 I think is the going rate at the moment. when you see the facilities that we got, when you look that we do have at the top of the range facilities, the money's going into the right place. So we could pretty much underline say that the university's kind of sorted us out when it comes to equipment. I do think when it comes to the more technical side, sort of tracks, dollies, jibs, they're quite restricted on those. I've noticed that recently. I'm not sure if you guys have as well.
I think grip is probably where we need it the most of everything. That's the one thing that's I think's looked over really. But we have the stuff. It's more to do. I don't know if it's to do with the expense or anything, but like even shoulder mounts, some of the stuff they don't have half of it. They don't have the weights to go with it. I think you're right. Really, it's just the movement, which is what lecturers push for so much, but they don't see it that much because a lot of people can't get hold of it.
Do you find there's a difficulty with the equipment? Are you happy with where that money's gone, or do you feel that they've not put it back into the course?
No, I feel like I really like how the university is structured, like all of the equipment we have access to. It's not that I'm complaining about. Like we have the possibility to use a lot of different equipment. We have the possibility to use computers that work really, really well. They're really fast. They have a lot of software. It's just how the course is structured. It's just the fact that we have access to all of this, but nobody tells us how to use it.
So have you guys ever had to improvise a piece of equipment? Did you?
Yes, actually we have. I remember in first year when we were on our first shoot for a documentary, we were shooting this interview, and we were interviewing this guy, like this crazy German dude, and we didn't have a diffuser for one of the lights, so we were looking around and like while we were at mine before we went on the shoot, and I was like, fuck it, we can use a pillowcase, it'll be fine. And we got a pillowcase, and we didn't have clips or anything, so we just had to drape it over one of the lights. And like midway through the interview, and I was talking to this guy here, and I saw like light on his face, and he like goes, and like the whole thing set on fire, right? And me and Matt look at each other like, this is like the first shoot we've been on.
That moment was so long.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
What do we do?
I ran up like and grabbed it, and I'm a coward, like I don't know why the whole time my body was doing it. I was like, what are you thinking? Like, and like then this crazy German guy was just like laughing in the background, just like pissing himself while we were like beating a pillowcase, and Matt was like screaming. But yeah.
Like a little girl. No.
Yeah, no, that taught us not to improvise with equipment. If you, I don't know, sometimes when you don't have all the assets, it forces you to be a bit more creative.
Since you've stuck around with the university, you've seen what it was like when you were paying the 3 to 3.5, and you've seen now we're in our second year of paying this high amount of fee. Can you see where the money's going?
Although you may be a film production student, a lot of the money you get, that money doesn't come straight to the film production course. It goes to the university, first and foremost. The university is continuing to expand, both in our residential services, in our teaching spaces, but also expand in our learning equipment, let's say. So the equipment for film production students is getting a lot better.
Yeah.
We're getting more expensive cameras, we're getting more of them that are now shooting in higher resolutions. We've got a much better workspace downstairs in our MMC than we ever did when I was here. So yes, students now are paying a lot of money. We do get some of it. We don't get all of it, but we do get some of it. And I do think this university is investing in not only the students that we currently have, but the students that will be coming here in the future.
What would you guys say has been your driving force? What's made you keep going?
Well, even when you come up against something, you're still doing what you want to do. Like it's a fair. You were talking about the money side of this course before, but it's with stuff like film or even music or an art course. Like it's all the arts. To a fair degree, it's an indulgence.
The thing I strive for whenever it's anything I've written or edited or directed or just put a camera angle on is I want to show the story. I want to get across that's the most important part for me. I don't care how technical the shot is. I don't care how much money's gone into it. I just want to, if I can get across in that shot or in that piece of dialogue or in that edit, an emotion, a connection, a realization, anything like that, that's what I need to do.
Mm.
And that's what I strive for, really. I want to make stuff that people can feel attached to and people can enjoy.
If you were to give anyone a message now who's having a hard time making a film, what would you say to them?
I'd say that you need to squash your ego very quickly. Every aspect of the film is just as important as whether you do like directing, writing, sound, editing. All of it is an integral part. You're all musicians. You just play different instruments.
I'm a film fan, of course, because I'm doing film studies and film production.
Mm.
But part of being a film fan is recognising that maybe there isn't something on the market you think there should be. And that's why I wanted to get into film production, because I want to see certain stories on the screen, and I'm not going to sit around and wait until someone makes them.
Mm.
I want to be there and make them. I can't fail at this, because it's all I want to do, and it's all I know how to do, really. I don't want, like I mentioned before, I don't want to go and work at a till, I don't want to work in an office. It's not for me. It's not for you. I know that. It wasn't for Martin Scorsese, and it wasn't for Alfred Hitchcock, and it wasn't for anyone who's ever picked up a camera and gone, I want to tell a story right now. If you can just make a connection and you can make something that people enjoy, or even if people don't like it, even if people tell you to fuck off and tell you it sucks, just keep going. Keep moving forward, man. Because you're never going to be happy unless you really feel like you've gotten what you need to say out. And this is one of the best ways in the world to do it. It's one of the greatest art forms of all time.
The most organised of projects could be forced to be abandoned, yet instead of a blank script or an unused DVD being handed in, students are able to create something under the pressure of working against deadlines. So when a wall comes between students and their projects, they have the ingenuity and creative mindset to break through that wall. It really is something to be commended. From our survey, where students felt more could be done to assist their learning, it's worth acknowledging that at the end of every module, students are asked to fill in evaluation forms. This is to give feedback on the courses. As long as students continue to give this feedback, we'll continue to see improvements, which is something that's become evident in my time at university. It's not just students that encounter challenges, but film production itself. Every semester, they're working for students, improving the course, breaking down the wall.